Hello everybody, I saw a funny article here. It's somebody who set and configured all Vim options, 376 of them. So I'm currently using 𝗦𝗡𝗡𝗏. I've used Vim in the past, but now I'm using 𝗦𝗡𝗏. And here is somebody who is using Vim. And he writes, first impressions of Vim. Wow, I first saw someone use Vim during an internship in 2012. I had been coding for many years and I fancy myself pretty good at shortcuts, but I was quickly humbled. I watched in awe as experienced users zipped around the code. A single keystroke would move the cursor halfway across the file to exactly the right spot. Code was ripped apart and reshaped like putty. Wow, I thought to myself. I probably said out loud. So that has been my feeling as well. I think that's a great part with Vim, that you can just use your keys and the keyboard and you feel very fast when working. And the next part, 13 years later and still clumsy. I vowed to master this editor, but I was slow. When I wasn't accidentally opening some unknown menu, I was taking an uncomical path through the code. I pressed J 20 times instead of running 20J, or manually deleted code inside parentheses instead of running DI parentheses. Sometimes I would open another text editor to give my mind a break from all the key bindings. I think this is just about practice. So if you just continue to use Vim, I think you build up a muscle memory, and you need to do some like learning and read a bit about to see what's available, so you aren't stuck with these basic commands, but that you learn like the actual grammar that you can combine and more, like here delete in parentheses, so you can do more advanced things. So I think you need to do some reading to be able to discover and learn this. But then if you continue to use Vim, eventually it will become muscle memory. And then what he writes, that sometimes he would open another text editor. I think like that's fine, but like all popular text editors have a Vim mode. So you can still use the Vim key bindings, even if you're not using the actual Vim. You can use like VS Code or Visual Studio or IntelliJ or anything. Like they have a Vim key bindings there as well. So you can use that and practice there, and I think eventually you would get better. But we continue. Fast forward to 2025. After tons of practice, I felt much more capable. Code did feel much like putty. I was working closer to the speed of thought. I could get code where I wanted much more quickly. 13 years of practice paid off. But Vim still felt clumsy. I was still accidentally opening menus I didn't recognize. I would do silly things like converting the whole file to lowercase or trigger some scary error message. Surely I shouldn't be making these mistakes, I thought. What could be done to finally master this editor? My goal, set every Vim option. So I'm not sure if this was maybe the right choice, but sure, we'll see what he says. The desire for expertise led me to a quest to set all of Vim's options. I would make an informed decision about all 376 of Vim's settings and drop them in my Vim RC. In other words, I wanted to 100% Vim. Surely setting every Vim option would make me the fluent expert I wanted to be, right? I pored over every single Vim option and made a decision. What did the option do and what did I want it to be set to? So I guess it's educational. I don't know at all like what are the available settings. When I want to change something, I just Google and see how to do that, but I have no idea like what's really available on this grand scale. And then it says, my goal was to be thorough, leave no stone unturned. I only set the option after I understood it. Eventually, after countless hours, I had done it. I had set every single Vim option. I learned a lot. This exercise taught me plenty about the day-to-day usage and the editor's inner workings. I spent a lot of time with the documentation, Vim source code and online forums. Here's a grab bag of things I learned. How to use external commands. I didn't realize I could send text from a Vim buffer to an external command and vice versa. Now I can write regular programs that operate on stdin. For example, I now frequently use a program to remove smart quotes, which I call without leaving the editor. See help filter and help write C for details. So this is not something I really know what it means. This is something I would need to look into, I guess. And this is not something I've done. Then it continues, Vim's docs are mixed. I frequently ran the help command for something, read the docs and came away clueless. Thanks to the great people of the internet for so many great explanations. One of the flags stumped me so much that I had to ask my own question on VI Stack Exchange because nobody had really documented before. I don't know if it's only with Vim. I'm using 𝗬𝗶𝗴. It seems like more people are using it nowadays. That there's a bigger community around 𝗬𝗶𝗴. So, but I don't know about like the difference in docs. I haven't looked into it. So, but maybe it's better for 𝗬𝗶𝗴. I don't know. And then it continues how Vim writes files. When you run :w, it's just saving the file. How hard could that be? Turns out it's complicated. If you're overwriting a file, Vim by default creates a backup of the old version, then overwrites it with the new version. This can help avoid the data loss in some situations. But there's a lot of complexity here in the fate of that backup file after a successful write, in how the backup switcheroo happens and where the backup is saved. This is probably irrelevant for most people, but I had to understand the details in order to set every option. Yeah, I think that this was the problem. I haven't really like experienced any problem with the for saving. So I don't know if that was worth it for him to understand like exactly how it's working when it's saving a file. The command line window, which I had always opened by accident, it's super useful. So this I have opened by accident as well, and I don't know how it works. So maybe this is also something I need to learn. The cedit option taught me about the command line window. I frequently opened this by running q:, so that's easy to make. Since with :q you quit Vim, but q:, then it's the command line window that you open. And I didn't know what I had done. Now I know a useful way to search and edit the history of previous commands and searches. For example, if I run some long command and make a typo, I can open the command line window and fix the error using regular Vim keybindings. That actually sounds useful. I need to look that up. Digraphs are an obscure feature for typing obscure characters. For example, you can enter a half in insert mode with Control K12. There's a big list in digraphs. I don't use this much except for typing fractions, but I use this more than I thought I would. This sounds really useful actually. This is something I need to look up. How to set options conditionally. I knew about regular if conditionals with things like if, has, and Vim, but I didn't know that you could set a Vim option only if it's supported with code like if exists. I don't know when I would use this since I don't really script in my Vim files or so. And then here, Vim and 𝗬𝗶𝗴 have more differences than I thought. Among the many changes, I was pleased to learn that pasting is smoother in 𝗬𝗶𝗴, that Q repeats the last recorded macro. It makes running arbitrary code safer and has a much nicer default color scheme. So I think, yeah, this is worth noting. It seems like 𝗬𝗶𝗴 has done some good improvements, so maybe that's better to look into if you're new to Vim or 𝗬𝗶𝗴. Then the last point here, Vim used to have a different name. Today Vim stands for VI Improved, an old Unix editor from the 1970s, but it was originally called 𝗬𝗖𝗡𝗟. That's a fun fact. I bet you can tell it on parties and you will be popular. This is just a sample of my discoveries. For more, see my heavily annotated init.vim file. And what is this? 2,879 lines. That's impressive. He has configured all settings and commented what they do, it seems like. But that's actually good. So if you want to dive deeper, take a look at this file, and here you have a lot of documentation about each command. So that's quite nice and useful, actually. And then here at last, but I'm still not fluent. As of this writing, my configuration file is near 2,900 lines long. This exercise was fun. It also taught me a lot about the editor I use every day. I definitely feel more skilled. Yet the feeling of awkwardness remains. Even after 14 years, I still accidentally open the command line window all the time. I mess up filtering commands or get lost in the jump list. I still sometimes press K 10 times instead of running 10K. And yeah, regarding this, I think there are a lot of different ways to navigate. You don't need to use the J, K, and L and to move one by one. You can easily search. Like if you're on a row, you can use F to find on that row, or you can use backslash to search in the whole file to jump to the first occurrence. So there are a lot more than just this K and to jump individual characters. And then he writes, I discovered one thing about myself, the feeling of true Vim fluency, one where every keystroke is exact, never make mistakes, and I'm exploiting every obscure feature is a fantasy, at least for me. That's comforting constant in this topsy-turvy life. I will always have more to learn about Vim. So what I would recommend is instead to look at this Vim book. So if we search for that, I think it's called Practical Vim. Yeah, here it's available on Amazon. So I read this many years ago, and at that point I was quite good already at Vim. But this book taught me a lot, so maybe we can see if there are any table of contents. Here I found another website about this Practical Vim book, and here it also has some table of contents. So it tells about the modes: normal mode, insert mode, visual mode, command line mode. So there we had it, that this author struggled with. And then it tells about a lot of other things. But I think this taught me a lot. It's some years old. But not much has happened with Vim, especially not the basic things that have stayed the same. So I would really recommend this book if you want to learn some great things in Vim. If you want to develop past this 𝗘𝗺𝗓𝗃, these individual characters to just jump around with them. This book I really recommend. And for a long while I used my own config in Vim and then also in 𝗬𝗎𝗡𝗏. But eventually I grew a bit tired of it. I was away from using 𝗬𝗎𝗡𝗏 for a little while. I had only used other editors with Vim mode, but then I came back to 𝗬𝗎𝗡𝗏, and I didn't want to like update my config and see what plugins to use. And then I switched to using LazyVim instead. So that's like a 𝗬𝗎𝗡𝗏 setup. It comes pre-configured with a lot of things. And I think it feels kind of lightweight still, and it has things pre-configured, so you don't need to do much yourself. I've done very, very little myself. I think it has like animations, and I disabled that. But other than that, I don't think I've done anything. Maybe like change the color theme. So maybe that's something you can check out as well if you consider like spending a lot of time setting a lot of options. So maybe it's better to find some distribution that you like that has already done that job and configured it in a sensible way. I know that there are a lot of like conflicting opinions. There are many people who are a bit like against this pre-configured Vim, and but I don't know. I think you should just go and do what you think feels best for you. I think it's helpful, and it saves a lot of time, and you get a fairly good setup. You don't need to spend time on like learning everything, and you get something that works quite well. I think that was everything I wanted to share today. Please check out Vim if you haven't already done that, and I hope you learn Vim. Bye bye!